Hey guys, happy Wednesday. I hope you are having a fantastic day, and I'm excited to jump on here with you guys and continue our discussion on Nutrition Basics 101. So we've already discussed calories and then last week protein. So this week we're going to talk about the macronutrient on carbohydrates. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation out there on the topic, and so I'm excited to break this down with you so that you can get on the same page of understanding carbohydrates as well as helping other people. All right, first things first, what are carbohydrates? Well, carbohydrates are one of the 3 macronutrients that we use for our body for a daily basis, and they consist of 4 calories per gram. Carbohydrates are one of the main sources of energy that we get from our body on a daily basis, and one of the primary fuel sources that our body utilizes during resistance training or high-intensity cardio. So, where do we get these carbohydrates from? Well, we get these sources of fuel from things such as bread, rice, potatoes, candy, don't do that, and fruits and vegetables. So with that being said, not all carbohydrates are created equal. And this is where a lot of the confusion and misinformation comes from. So when we can get clear on that and understanding what a carbohydrate is and where they come from, as well as the complexity of a carbohydrate, it will give you a better understanding. So let's break it down. Carbohydrates are going to be classified by their complexity. So you may have heard of the terms simple carbohydrates or complex carbohydrates. And this is important to understand because different carbs will have different effects on the body and will be used more appropriately at different times. So to understand this, I want you to think of the level of complexity of a carbohydrate like a chain with individual chain links. And in that, we have each individual chain is going to make up another level of complexity. The simplest form of carbohydrates are monosaccharides. And so we'll think of this as one chain length or one carbohydrate molecule. Second form of carbohydrates are disaccharides, or better known as 2 different molecules. We could compare this to table sugar, which has a glucose and a fructose molecule bind together. And lastly, we have polysaccharides. These are going to be more of our starchy carbohydrates, such as potatoes, rice, bread. And when looking back at our chain length, these are those complex carbohydrates. So the chain length analogy, you're going to have a longer length of chain and more chain links. The length of the chain that we've been referencing generally determines how long it's going to take that carbohydrate to break down and digest, as well as the impact it has on our blood sugar levels and the best timing for utilization of those carbohydrates. So now with that information in place, how do we apply it? Well, what carbohydrates should you eat, and how many carbohydrates should you eat, and when should you eat them? Well, my favorite answer, that depends. It depends on a multitude of things. What do you want to do with your diet? What foods can you eat? What do you like to eat? What can't you eat? What's your activity level? How much muscle mass do you have? A ton of different factors, and everybody is different. But the 2 most important questions to ask yourself are, what do you want to do, and what do you like to eat? Because at the end of the day, there's no one-size-fits-all diet for everyone. And the diet that works is the one that you can stick to and create as a lifestyle. So we need to go back to the basics and focus on the 2 most important things, and that's hitting your calories and protein by eating in a caloric deficit and hitting your overall protein. So even if there was a lower carbohydrate diet that's better for fat loss, it doesn't matter if you can't stick to it. So what about the timing of your carbohydrates? Should you stress about that? Well, you can, but the importance really comes down to the overall daily intake. Now, are there more optimal times to take in simple carbohydrates versus complex carbohydrates? Yes. So, what you want to focus on is using simple carbohydrates centered around your workouts, pre and post. So in order to fuel your body or to recover from your workouts, and then focus on your complex carbohydrates centered throughout the rest of the day. Now remember, since complex carbohydrates have more chains and more links, they take longer to break down and digest. So that's why we want to keep those centered around the rest of our day and not our workouts. And we should always choose less processed, more whole food, nutrient-dense carbohydrates rather than simple processed sugars. So that's all I have for you today, but I hope that this information on carbohydrates has helped you and you can apply it to your diet and your lifestyle. Have a fantastic day.